Home is Where the Dark is supported by and produced at Stygian Sound, a music production suite specializing in producing, mixing, and mastering dark and heavy genres. Stygian Sound offers a collection of instruments and equipment that has been carefully curated and refined to offer you exceptional tools to capture your perfect performance. Have your raw multitracks mixed with distinctive taste. Have your mix fine-tuned with a world-class hybrid master. Visit alexcrescioni.com today for more details and to book your slot now. Thanks, Daddy. Welcome, The Fund.
Hey.
How's it going, guys?
Yo. Good.
Doing well.
Thanks for coming by Stygian Sound and having a chat. I'm curious to hear about what you've been up to this year and, you know, what you have planned for the rest of the year. So to kick it off, can you maybe tell me and the listeners like a little bit about what's already happened this year? And seen you guys had some pretty sick releases already.
Yeah, so off the top of the year, we have a bunch of records that we've been working on a lot later last year that have all sort of just started to come out. I think we've had a release come out every week at least. And right now we're working with a singer-songwriter named Zach Gordon, who was really well known from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. He was like a famous actor. Still is, great guy. And we got linked up through a mutual friend and started working on his project. Acoustic singer-songwriter. Really took the time to really try and hone in his sound, and we released the first single and it's doing really well. Like for an independent release, we're already at 500,000 streams in the past 3 weeks, which, you know, I think as far as everybody's expectations really blew him out of the water for a first release as a brand new artist. And we're actually gearing up some of our own work, you know, because aside from producing as under the moniker of The Fund, we're also, you know, we came from a band, New Beat Fund. So we've been working on some of our own projects. We released a music NFT for the single called Sweet Talkin' Melody that was a bit of a backlash at some of the things that we had gone through with the band specifically.
How so?
A little bit of... Well, we say that we're past Jade, but I would say it has,
Jade.
Yeah, we're post Jade, but it has a little bit of the effects of the lyrics definitely speak to how how there's records that come out after an artist dies sort of thing, and it's there's been so many great artists that have seen the height of their success after they've passed away, and I guess it speaks a little bit on how sacrificing yourself for people's attention has really become a norm in today's musical landscape, especially with social media. You know, all these outlets they're wonderful tools, but at what cost? You know, and to be a musician, you're a very sensitive, highly sensitive person, and you have to go to certain lengths to make sure that you're marketing your music and you want to see it through to the end, and you want people to discover it, obviously, but you also don't want to do that at the cost of your well-being.
Totally.
And I feel like that song was definitely speaking on how we did that. You know,
Gotcha.
we took it too far. Jeff can speak more on the lyrics, but really that was the essence of the song. And we did it specifically as an NFT and not through streaming platforms to make it more of a very limited release and something that's really more like a vinyl pressing where there's only this many that will exist, and if you get to experience it, great. But it really was it was symbolizing a little bit of taking our power back in that sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's really smart.
Yeah.
The exclusivity of something like that is you
Right.
can only hear it here, you can only get it here. I think that's super smart, especially for from a financial point of view. It's so hard this day and age in the music industry to have any kind of decent income from a song unless you're in the top of the top and you have killer publishing and you're on a label that you're one of the artists that's getting the millions and millions and millions of streams constantly, monthly listeners and whatnot. So I think that's really smart. It's a smart way to get people to have something exclusive from you and to greatly, capitalize on that. So
Right,
that's
yeah.
really smart.
I think
Yeah.
too, like coinciding with what the song was about, it felt like what we were talking about, what we've been through, like we would cheapen it if we just like DSP, promote it, market it, and try to get attention on it. It was like sort of like, we're like, all right, well, it doesn't really align with what we're saying with this song, and I feel like that would cheapen the authenticity of what we were saying. So we're interested in trying new aspects of how connecting to fans, and again, it's like if everyone's fighting for attention, then it's like it actually just becomes hard to connect to those fans that care about what you have to say. And then you feel like the things you have to say become like they need to be some explosive dynamite version of what you have to say, when it's maybe something intimate and personal.
Yeah.
It's like it's sort of kind of paradoxical in that way. It's like I gotta be loud with an intimate statement. It's like
Totally.
it becomes like difficult.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also, like what Jeff is saying is like the what's kind of cool about this modern era with the music NFT stuff, which is, this was our first one. It was an experiment, but it actually goes perfectly in line with the meaning of the song. The song is like an anti-song in a way of like it's like, fuck this whole thing. It's so try hard and like people beat themselves up, so like the song itself is an anti, and so the meaning of the song is baked into like the art of the release, which now NFTs, there's like art in the actual release of it. And so instead of playing by the rules of like DSPs and all just the things that are in place, we set our own rules, and we're just like, cool, this is what this is, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of also like there's this whole thing with like, oh, well, if it has 1 million streams, then it's a good song, or there's like that validation. And in this case, we're like, well, we know it's a good song, it's meaningful to us, and so we're setting the value, and there it is, and if you want it, you can have it, and if not, then that's all good.
I like how you said too, it's an experiment, and it's like you felt this is what you need to do for this song, considering the lyrics and what it means to you. So I think doing an experiment like this is it's like a great idea, because even if it doesn't like get to the number or the level that you're hoping, or maybe it'll exceed that, it's just being able to do this experiment. Now you'll be able to know in the future, is this something that works for our music, and do fans connect to our music this way, and is this something that we can continue to do? Or it seems like it does seem like it can be very valuable, especially for future songs as well. So can you explain a little bit, because it's still NFTs, I know a little bit about it, but could you explain for the listeners, like how would, I saw on your website there's like a link to it, but how do you enter that world for, say there's fans that want to connect and listen to that song? Like how do you go about entering that world?
Well, first off, I think the general consensus from our fans were that they hated that we did it. They were like pissed about it, because they were like, the same thing. They don't know what it means yet. It's still like a little early, you know. But pretty much NFT stands for non-fungible token. And really it's the same as like a limited poster run, or like a piece of merchandise or a piece of vinyl. Like if we pressed like 25 vinyls and then you bought one, you would have one of 25, or whatever. Like it's the same concept, only digital, and it's vetted on the blockchain, so it's transparent. It's on a ledger, and this is a coming wave. So right now, there's a lot of like hot and cold on the subject. Some people are all in, some people are all not in, but eventually everything will be on the blockchain, and just people won't know. It's like, if you purchased a flight ticket from San Francisco to LA, there's one seat at that, like you have one seat and it's at that time, and it's almost like an NFT, only it's just not on the blockchain. So this is like, it's just an idea of documentation and tracking. And so, when you have collectors, you just know you can access them through their wallets, and it's just a new age way of managing a database of people who have your music, you know.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of being built right now. You know?
It is a little confusing to the average music listener. I mean, ourselves included, even when I was like shown it's you have to be pretty tech savvy to be able to get around a few hoops to get to it.
Yeah.
I feel like once you sort of figure it out, then it's a little more manageable. But you know, it's just a growing thing. I think it was something for us that it was, you know, we're involved with a lot of people within that space, so I figured it was a good thing for us to try. Like I said, I think it helps to manage the art in a way that's more valuable, and I think that just meant a lot for that song.
Totally. Yeah.
And that was really like the core essence of it, you know. And I, you know, it might be a little early for where it will be in the future, but you know, we've always been interested in trying to do things that are a little more on the cutting edge side of things that, you know, they might not always be like the most fruitful thing, because being the first person to do it doesn't necessarily mean it's the...
Maybe not yet.
Maybe
but that's
not
the thing.
yet.
You guys
yeah.
are in on it early, so when it does explode and become the new, like, this is the average, this is
Right.
our currency now, like, which it's very possible it could be. Like,
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, I feel like when Spotify was first coming out too, we were kind of in a similar position where I think our band was on, like, we got like the front cover page of Spotify, like right when it was just happening. I think it was just like a desktop version.
It's
Really?
like just desktop.
I think we were still independent at this point too.
Completely independent. It was like our second. We had released our EP, and then we dropped Peaches, and I remember getting the Spotify cover and being like, "Holy shit!" That's
Yeah.
cool.
do you remember what year that was about?
I want to say like 2012.
2012 or 2013.
2012, yeah. So like it was still like at a point where streaming was sort of in that phase as well.
Yeah.
It was like brand new, and like, you know, Urban Outfitters and, you know, like all the young youthful like clothing stores were trying to like, if you could, they give you a little card to like sign up for a free month of Spotify. So it was like all these marketing campaigns were being run to try to get that sort of the streaming idea. Now it's just, you know, it's ubiquitous for all of us, but trying to get, you know, the youth into it and stuff at the time. So it's interesting. We're sort of at that like decade later where like, you know, but we like lived through sort of that the birth of it, you know.
Yeah, it seems like it's becoming part of your brand too. It's like you're
Yeah.
on you're on the cutting edge of technology and you know, these services that are like, you know, you were right there when Spotify was starting, and I remember like Spotify when it first was like kind of blowing up. I know a lot of it wasn't as popular as it is today. Obviously, it's like that's where everyone listens to music. Well, I think YouTube is number one, and then Spotify, if I'm remembering correctly. But
Yeah.
now it's like that's probably what's going to happen with NFTs, you know, in 10 years. So it's great that you guys you're again on the cutting edge and getting in early. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely feels like there's, you know, I feel like trends and culture just works like that. It's like, you know, we sort of live like decade by decade in some ways. It's like something's around for 10 years. It's like everybody's sort of ready for something fresh and new, or like a new approach. So I think we're probably hitting a spot where something new is either emerged or emerging. So, you know.
I think it's the TikTok generation like that. All music is being discovered on there like crazy, and stuff's going viral crazy. I know your new song, the new single, is
Oh
doing
yeah,
really well
with
on TikTok.
Zach. Yeah, he's
Our second TikTok viral.
yeah. And to be honest, we're not like, you know, we're not like TikTok heads. We're not like super. We sort of are. We kind of had a little bit of like reservation about it because, you know, like
I still
social
do.
media.
It's like that's the same thing. I struggle with this every time there's like the new thing that it makes me feel fucking old at this point, because it's like TikTok to me, when it first came out, it was like just like kids, like teenagers dancing to like, you know, random shit, and now it's obviously all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
remember the very beginning, it was just like, you know, teens and like older, like adult, like just girls dancing around and like being sexy, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, and then it's like, oh, you don't have your stuff on TikTok, like why isn't your song on TikTok? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And now it's like if you don't have it on there, you're fucked basically, because that's where people discover it, and it can go viral, and you can get streaming royalties from that, and it's like it's just constantly changing. You guys know, like, the industry is constantly evolving, and you have to stay up to date, and you have to know what's going on to like ride the wave, and to, you know, if you get something like that gets a fuckload of streams, you guys know, like, the royalty percentages, it's like, it's not a lot, but if you can get up into the millions, then you're going to start to see, like, you know, good stream of income coming in.
Like you can have a career.
And as producers, that's like really what we're into with the longevity of our work. And our biggest successes as producers have been because of TikTok. And, you know, I think we were all a little hesitant. Obviously, the culture of it and the generation of it, you know, like the people who make it and make the culture of it, there's a lot of that, you know, surely is not something that I would do personally, but it's also a great test, like a taste of like where culture's at. Like what is the youth culture saying today? Like how are they reacting to music? What do they want to hear? Like how, you know, I feel like that's an important thing to stay in touch with as a producer and as an artist. You know, we work with a lot of younger artists too, so you know, there's a certain language that we have to be able to like communicate between the two of us, or the in our case the three of us and whatever artists we're working with. But and then just using it as the tool that it is, you know, we also don't want to fall behind. And I think just as much as the NFT thing is sort of where music might be in the future as far as how people access it, I think as far as promoting it and marketing it and being an artist that people want to see visually and be a part of their world, I mean, TikTok is obviously the most important one today. What that'll be like in 10 years from now, I don't know. It could be like, it could be
crazy shit,
some metaverse shit. I don't know. Like, you know, there's like AI artists popping up now, like CGI artists or whatnot, but
touch our forehead.
You know, it is very much that of it is our responsibility just as much as keeping up with the latest tools that we work with. It's like, I feel like keeping up with culture is often the most important, because, you know, there are great producers, and some of my favorite producers have definitely waned and not withstood some like the test of time, because you know, they get stuck in their ways and they don't like that things change. And it's hard, and being able to adapt is really important.
I think that's normal though. Like, we, you know, there's this resistance against like, what the fuck is this stupid app that I have to know about now? Like that, you know, all these kids are on. Like, I get the resistance, and that's how a lot of people are with, like, I know some producers that they don't even have an Instagram, and that's like a decade behind already. And now it's TikTok, and they don't have one of those. It's like, I started TikTok, but I don't use it anymore. Like, I need to go check on it, but okay, look, dude, this is the point here. like, okay, we make music, and we want to be as professional as possible and be as successful as possible. So if that means that we have to have our music available on all these different platforms, then who cares? It's there. People can do what they want with it. If, you know, kids want to dance to it, or they want to put it in their whatever video, that doesn't mean we have to do that. Like you said, like, we don't have to go on there and have a presence like that.
No twerking over there. I mean, maybe once. So.
I mean, we make intellectual property, right? So like that speaks for itself at some point. You know, that's what we're kind of more behind the scenes. You know, I mean, we have artist projects, and that's why we know how to work with artists. But that, you know, we're in the game of building and crafting great songs and records so that they speak for themselves. Now, keeping track of all the tools and all that, you know, it's necessary, but also at the end of the day, I think the primary objective is to create good masters, you know. So, and tools for artists to go and rep, and for them to grow on their own, you know, and live their life. Because you put intellectual property out there, then it kind of it just takes on a life of its own, you know.
Right.
And so the tools that are happening are great, you know. So like, okay, we're talking about Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Those are all third-party apps, and everything that's on there is like those apps kind of like own all the information and control the algorithms. And then, now they've kind of started paying some sort of a royalty, right? But I think the next phase is where you own all of your followers. And so you can take them later on to different platforms or whatever. So you build up your audience, you control your audience. And, just the same as like the NFT is like really like intellectual property management, where you're dealing with, it's on the blockchain, it's all automated royalties. Like every time there's a transaction, everything's automated. You don't have to deal with PROs or anything like that. It's all very automatic. So later on for the social media stuff, there's already these things being built. They're connected to wallets and it's Web3 land. But the concept is you have your account and everybody who follows you. If you could take it to another website, you could take all those people, you own your following. Whereas the prior generation of platforms, they get so big because they own all the information. So it's what we're talking about is sovereignty. It's like digital sovereignty and like ownership of what you're building. So,
and I think that's a great point. I think another good, like perfect example of that is, bands and artists. We have our social media accounts, Facebook, IG, TikTok, all of them. But another great thing to have is a mailing list. And if you can build up a shitload of emails on your mailing list, then you have that data and you can, those are fans wherever you are. So that's really important too. And I think a lot of bands and artists aren't so great about that because it's really hard to build that up. You know what I mean? Unless you have to like kind of every single fan, you have to ask for their email and ask if you can add them to your account or whatever one you use. But I started doing that over time, and it's
great with that.
It's a short list. But I know every single person on that list.
Yeah,
they are true people that value what you do and will follow you. So it's like, okay, guys, I'm going over to this whatever new app. Follow me there. You put the link, whatever. Like that's really really valuable. And I kind of when you talked about owning your followers, I immediately thought of something like that. But
that is the old school version of it. Yeah.
So I think if I'm remembering correctly, there was a way, or there might still be a way you can extract on Facebook, you can extract all your friends' emails, I believe. So that's like another way to transfer over.
That's interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's a way to do that. I did that in the past. I don't know if you can still do that, but I remember I tried to add everyone from my Facebook friends list to my MailChimp, and it worked. But what happened was, unless you're the type of person that only adds people on Facebook that you actually know and are friends and work with, then the majority of them are just people you don't know or acquaintances that don't give a fuck about what you're doing. So I had to go through and I ended up clearing out a lot of those. But yeah, that's a great point about owning your followers. And when you also mentioned PROs, I think that's like a whole nother rabbit hole of challenges and headaches.
A labyrinth.
Like, because it's like every few years I'm like, okay, I need to go in and watch some YouTube videos or do some more research to see if there's anything I'm missing. Okay, because it's like you think you have everything accounted for, but then you're like, oh, did you know about this one fucking website that tracks your royalties? Like, no. And then you're like, oh shit, I got to sign up and put all my songs to that. So it's like, most people have their ASCAP or their BMI and Sound Exchange and whatnot, and then it's like you still don't really know, like, am I collecting everything that I'm owed? So it's like that's a whole nother world of pain in a way, because it's like I just started to go in and to my Sound Exchange and make sure everything's good to go, and it's just it's a lot of work, man, just managing all that, your ASCAP, your BMI, and making sure everything is up to date and it's all correct and accurate, and then also your distribution, and if you have a publishing company you're working with, or if you're self-publishing, it's it's a whole fucking it's not you said, it is a labyrinth of fucking
not very streamlined, is it?
No, it's not.
That's why I think it's the NFT technology that will be eventually baked into Spotify, these big platforms. Just so it's all just automated accounting, really. That's really what it is. So you don't have to do all this stuff. But it's being sorted out. It just takes time, I mean, even when we started, like, you know, I've known you for a long time, Alex. Like when we started in high school, you know, and yeah, these guys too during that era, we were playing in high school together. Like, so, but our bands then, the tools that were there in place then, we were like handing flyers and CDs to people. And then to now, you know, it's like, it's wild to even think about the difference from then to now of like all the tools, you know. So,
Yeah.
And, you know, we've, both you and us have, like, you know, built a small business of, like, you know, creating music, and we're building the, you know, with the current tools, some sort of passive income flow for the future, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's tricky, but I think it eventually, you know, the big songs that come too, those you make sure those are all sorted. And then all the, you know, but I think for us as producers too, it's like over time having a bunch of songs and everything collecting, really, that's where it probably will all really build up, is all the small stuff too, you know.
Right. It's about the longevity of it. And yeah, like when you get, you know, you buy every like 200 songs in your arsenal, like then you have that one single that hit that had millions of streams, and, you know, great artists on a label with lots of performance royalties and whatnot. So it's like those bigger ones is what's like filling in the gaps for all the other ones. So it's like you're able to have some kind of stable royalty income throughout the year. So those bigger songs that end up getting a bunch of streams and whatnot is what is kind of saving us right through the, you know, helping us push through the year, because all the other songs that maybe didn't get as much, didn't get many listens for whatever reason. Yeah, because you guys know, like when those songs, it's like trickles. It's just trickles of like cents that come. The big
Like
singles.
the rainwater, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. And sometimes you catch a little faucet.
Take a little sip. Yeah. Sometimes you plug in, you're like, damn.
The floodplains happen.
There's an oasis here.
But you know, I feel like some of it is also, you know, just positioning songs too. And the more that we've made songs with other people, it's not always the quality of work. It's actually has a lot to do with how people get it out, or just for whatever reason, if it could catch in a listening way. Like, I think one of our biggest songs that happened through TikTok was because of the video itself, also paired with the song, was like this magical thing. Really drove people to like pay attention to it. Mm-hmm. Do I think we've made songs just as good? I do, yeah. I'm sure we would all agree, but you know, it really is just about having that platform to connect that.
Yeah.
Sometimes dictates it all on its own. You know,
Yeah.
You don't really get to choose that.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like I've heard a lot of, you know, successful producers and artists say like this similar thing, which is you never really know what's gonna catch. Like you might try your hardest to make this one song, like maybe to you as a producer, like, oh, this is the best song I've ever written. It sounds awesome, killer melody, killer singer, great arrangement. But for whatever reason, that one that you're really excited about just doesn't take off. But that other one that you wrote in like 5 minutes with like some quick vocal, everyone loves that one, and that takes off. So I think there's a lot of beauty in that, because it's like, well, it's about what the people do with it and what catches on, and you know which one is the best to dance to on for a TikTok video. It's like It's that kind of stuff. So,
and I think as an artist, as you grow more, it's good to be able to manage that internally. Mm-hmm. So when you have the microscope up on one song, and I think it actually takes experience to be able to like know and be okay that this happens. Like, you know, Creep is a huge Radiohead song, and then, you know, they hated it or whatever. But I feel like today it's kind of like, if something works, we're just grateful if something works. You know, if it's not our favorite song, that's fine. But it is managing that bit where it's like, this is a great piece of work, and you do get the microscope out, and you're super close to it, and you're like living with it so in depth. And then the thing that's just on the other side that, you know, isn't necessarily just smothered in that way. Might be the thing that blossoms, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've learned too. It's kind of a good idea at times to not be so precious with everything. Like with, oh my God, this I'm going to spend another day on this mix to like make it perfect. But if the song isn't catching with people, it doesn't matter. Like if you took that extra day to like, maybe it matters to you, right? But that's not what is going to create a hit necessarily.
Right.
So
I mean, even sorry to cut you off.
No, it's cool.
Yeah, even the TikTok song that we had success on, it was like sort of the rough demo version they caught. It wasn't even. It was like the 15 minutes put in, and then we're like, gotta finish it now.
Yeah. I love that because I think that's why those quick demos and oftentimes end up being the hits, because people resonate with that, because they can feel that it was like an organic performance in the moment, and it was just so true to the artist. And there's a great example is the what song is it? Someone Like You by Adele. I think that was the demo version, like a quick piano and vocal. They were just like, did it really fast. And then I think there was plan to redo it with like a full production there, but they just used that one. And it was like one of the biggest songs in the world. Same thing with like, I'm sure you guys have heard that. People are gonna hate me for bringing up this song, but the Miley Cyrus song "Flowers," that big song, right? Okay, I was listening to it on Tidal, and then I saw there was another version that says "Flowers" demo, and I listened to that one. It was just her singing like really intimately with like a Casio sounding keyboard, like really like old school. I was like, I like this better. Because it was just like, whoa, so intimate. And, like
That's cool. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, like I guess on the producing tip, like we find like we sort of, when we're recording vocals for artists, we always keep the demo vocals, always keep those first takes, because we find that like, honestly, like probably 50% of the time we end up using quite a bit of them. And it's that, even as the artist and the psychology of it, of just like, they're just, in their head, it's not vocal day, or they're just like, oh, we're putting this down. They're not thinking it. They're just like, yeah, they're in that moment. And for some reason, like those songs and the Adele, like I 100% believe that, they were just like, look, there's magic here. Like we can't explain it, like we could change some things around, but it's not making it better, So
yeah, it's just that first performance, like whether the artist is crazy about it or not, it's like it's so pure. It's like this is the first time this has ever been sung in the entire like existence of the universe, and there's just something really magical about that. Even if it's not the best they could do, it's like there's just, like you said, there's just most of the time when it's a great artist, that's the magic one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe they're like lost in creation state, as opposed like in that flow of like building the song, or like more in touch with the kind of those fundamental feelings, as opposed to being in performance state. Where it's like, I gotta get the perfect, the feeling has to be this, and I'm chasing this, it needs to be like this. It's almost like when you're creating it, maybe you're distracted from the performance of it, and you're more lost in like the initial like fundamentals of the song, as opposed to like we have to get the perfect recording, type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that real thing captured,
Yeah.
And it is the pressure of it too. I feel like just saying that you're gonna do something, it's like taking a picture of an actual wedding, and then like taking a picture of like a staged wedding. It's just
like posing for it.
I don't know. There's just something about it.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah.
And even producing it, it's like almost like a psychology in itself with like a producer too, because when you're just fucking around, there's just no pressure. You can take all the risks, all the chances. You can make all the fuck ups, and often, like the sort of the idea of like wabi sabi, where it's like imperfection is like the beauty of it.
Yeah,
I feel like we try to lean into that more and more as time goes on, because I feel like those little imperfections are really the things that make a performance stand out. It's so easy to like make things really, really tight and gridded all the time now, and before it was doing the opposite, where you wanted it to be like Pro Tools was a blessing, because you can take a shitty drummer and you can make it sound good. And now it's almost the opposite, and especially we all know how to play instruments as well, so it's like try to like maintain a lot of those little nuances that give it life and humanity, and like let the listener know that someone actually did do it, you know, as opposed to, even if it's played on a MIDI keyboard or something, just give like some essence of like, oh, this has a feeling that's not super robotic.
Yeah.
And some things can be robotic too, but you know, just have something that's like a little different.
Yeah, like one thing that Matt Wallace said when we were speaking last, when he was here, actually, he said like something like perfect mixes are boring, or perfect, you know, takes are boring. It's like it's those weird mistakes that make the song so interesting, because you're like, whoa, what was that? That was cool. And then you remember that, instead of, oh yeah, maybe it was a great song, great melody, but it was just so perfect, which I guess a lot of people like perfect, but I find myself like, I find myself gravitating towards things that are a bit more odd, and you know, the mistakes are left in so you can actually hear the artist like as a human being.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. And sorry.
Okay.
I think it's interesting right now in this moment of time with music, how easy it is to make something sound really good and perfect. That like maybe more now than ever, it's like it's more of that. Now it's a decision to make it imperfect versus before it was like, you know, we're always trying for perfection, and now we're sort of like deconstructing that a little bit of like, as a producer, being like, look, wait, no, we want that snare to feel offbeat, or we want that vocal to be out of tune maybe, or something. So I think it's kind of cool. Like it's actually like a new brush for a producer to be like, no, like the vibe is like, we're not gonna use the tools to like make it perfect, you know.
Or there's like
It's
there's a new set of them to like fuck things up.
Yeah, exactly.
Like so many plugins are like, make your shit sound shittier. And you're like, dude, shitty's cool.
I know,
Well,
right?
I feel like we're really lucky as producers. You know, we invite people into our studio to work with them, and they get vulnerable with us. It's always hilarious when an artist comes in and they're like, they got to show us an idea, and it's a demo. It's like a voice memo, and they're always like, oh my god, I'm like still working on it. It's just like a voice memo. There's all these like prefaces and justifications.
Yeah.
And you know, I always tell them like, hey, like, we love hearing that version, because everything on Spotify is the shiniest, most 20th mix, perfect thing. Like everything is like the late stage perfection thing. And so we're fortunate to be able to hear these really like kind of just, you know, early ideas of like, you know, real shit, which, you know, when we listen to things, we hear potential as well. I mean, it's always nice to hear final recordings and stuff, but like, you know, and so that's part of the process when you're creating as a producer with an artist, you know, or for yourself or whatever. But, and I think we're entering into this era, which, you know, where there's AI everything, right?
Yeah.
So like, and everything's going to be prompts. So we're talking about human error and how that's becoming valuable, and so like right now we could probably find a music AI right now and be like, hey, we're doing a podcast with the fund and Alex, and we need some theme music. It needs to be dark but kind of poppy, and it need, you know, like, and then boom, it would create something, and it would sound like almost perfect but like not human, and you know, so we're gonna have more of that probably happening. And so probably the human error stuff of being like, no, this is like, you could tell it's human, like on purpose, like it's human, is probably gonna become even more valuable.
That's a great point. That might be in high demand once, you know, because we're already in the extremely polished music production world anyway, and now it's trying to get even more ridiculous with AI, like you said. So maybe in the very near future, when that starts to get more popular, there will be artists that are yearning for that old school feel again, and then we could just do what we do and not worry about shit.
Yeah.
Or,
I think even
Or
go ahead, yeah.
Okay, here's
I have a prediction on it.
we'll have two. We can both share.
Okay, you share yours.
My perception is that it's probably just going to be considered a new instrument. So it's just like a DAW, guitar, anything. It's like you spoke on prompts. So it still is going to be an interaction between you and it. I mean, if it's making it all on its own, then, then we're all fucked. But in the interaction, I think some of the human element might come from that, and that might not be might not be what like a solid someone who's spent years and years learning how to be a great bassist might want to hear, but it might be more into that territory where it's like you're creating it via like not playing, but you like have a history of music. You like the more you know the knowledge of it, maybe there's ways that you can combine things that have different outcomes, and then maybe you take that and then that becomes like your source material to then create from.
So you're saying like a more interactive splice, essentially.
Yeah, it's like it's like interacting with your own personal sample genius or something, but like you create it. Yeah, it's very similar to Splice, I guess, but it would just be you and not other people.
That makes sense.
And I think, I guess I want to relate it to like autotune and like how that like created a sound.
Yeah.
So I feel like if AI sort of has an aesthetic to it that feels like new, and maybe someone will come along and sort of like brand it theirs, but they'll like, on 10 AI, like they'll blow it up like sort of like T-Pain. That's I guess that's kind of what you were saying.
Yeah, like the ability to like, use it that way.
It's a new sound, new instrument that we haven't heard yet that'll create like it's just a new instrument.
Someone will know how to push it in the right way to make it do like the fucking cool thing.
Yeah.
I could see that happening. Like I'm sure maybe there's already an app or a website that does it. I don't know, but if you say you go, okay, you have an arrangement, but you want some kind of weird, you want like you have your main vocal, but you forgot to track backing vocals or something, and the artist is in a different country or whatever, and you're like, okay, create. Here's the tempo, here's the key, here are the lyrics, here's the melody. Create female choir backing vocals. Go, and it maybe something like that will get better over time, and you can blend it in your productions, and you can tell that it's not real, but we have that anyway, like with synths and virtual instruments and stuff. So I could see something like that being kind of cool to fuck around with, or if like same thing, like create electric rhythm guitars in the key of blah blah and tempo of blah blah, and you can like it generates it and you can import it into your session with all your other stuff and see how it works. I could see that being a thing. Yeah.
I mean, like the T-Pain example is a great example, and like I think at the essence I think these days it's a little more like identity and authenticity, like will become more coveted. So it's like, you have your style, it's like more metal, like black, aesthetic, and we have ours. It's like kind of colorful and funky, and and like, but like
according to Paul,
yo, dude, leave me out. Sit over here.
Well, like everybody has their vibe that attracts people, and you kind of have your own. You build your own audience, and then that's kind of you have a core, and so authenticity will be kind of the thing. Like, and even T-Pain, he is super authentic. I think in the moment when he just did it to do it because he was just fucking around, and he stumbled across this thing.
He was looking for the sound. Like he liked the sound of it. Like, so sonically he heard that Cher song, and he was trying to replicate it. He dug and he found the owner who created it.
Yeah.
And the technology was originally intended just for like grace tuning, like how people like
Yeah.
And he was like,
and he
nope.
turned it up.
So
but it was pure. Like the way he was doing it was very pure because he was like honestly seeking this aesthetic sound. Yeah. And then it became so controversial for him. Everybody was like, "You ruined music," and blah blah blah. And then it led to all these other people using it, and it became like crazy controversial. I think now it's pretty documented because of all the interviews and the history of like with his interactions with Usher and all this stuff that he's like, it's actually like he's just a very authentic ass dude, and he's actually a brilliant singer and an incredible songwriter. He has like hits, just flowing out of this guy, like over the years. So, but it was authentic. I think that's like at the core of why it resonated was it was authentic to him, and it kind of pioneered the movement out of authenticity.
It made him sound different from everyone else.
Yeah.
That was doing R&B at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like people did say it wasn't music, just as like so many groundbreaking genres are usually not music until the youth culture loves them. In which case, that youth culture grows up, they become norm, and then someone has to like break it again. And now auto-tune's like, I mean, we use auto-tune. I don't know, do you use auto-tune?
Yeah.
Every producer uses auto-tune.
Yeah,
it's a great tool, honestly, it is.
It's normalized now.
We don't
I
use
feel
it like T-Pain does,
No.
but, there's a lot of huge songs of the past 10 years that have been that, like all just a descendant of that sound.
And it opened up like so many new genres, it was like even the whole like SoundCloud thing that just happened and merging like, emo and hip hop. It's like that was highly based on like punk kids who cannot sing and not play an instrument but could download Fruity Loops for free and get an auto tuner, and now like access to music for them was they're able to do it, so it was like it created a new genre.
Yeah.
So it's it's
Probably how AI will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's to bring it back is like, so when will somebody use AI in a way that it just kind of clicks, where it's not like, hey, make me background music, because that'll be a thing. Like, hey, there's a moody scene, I need a cinematic piece, like boom, and then it just like happens. But it's integrated into an identity of authenticity,
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean,
Hey,
it'll happen.
If it means less time staring at a computer, I'm with it.
Yeah, that's
If I could just like talk to something and be like, yo, I want like this drum part to just be like a little tighter right here, a little tighter right there, and be like,
So you're saying you
Thanks,
don't like
bud.
staring at Logic all day? Is that what you're saying?
not particularly. Honestly, sometimes it's fun if you get in the zone, but I feel like there are just so many of like the minute editing stuff when you're doing pop productions is just mind numbing.
yeah.
And like it's that stuff that's just, it's not creative at all, it's just
Yeah.
doing work.
Hey Siri, can you make this sound better?
There you go.
Yo, hey Siri, can you like fade everything and take out every breath, please?
Yeah.
You know, it would be really awesome if they could create some kind of AI algorithm code that can just like take all of your multi-tracks and edit them and tune them like in 2 seconds, so you don't have to do it. Because that is literally like what you just said.
Right.
That is what I really despise about. That's like the one main thing I do not like about music production is when you have a project that needs a lot of drum editing or a lot of any kind of editing and a lot of tuning. That is like what I just put off as long as possible, and then I just build up the tolerance one day. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and then I do it. And
Yeah.
You
I
walk
just-
in
I'm
with
going into the
10
dungeon.
coffees.
yeah.
Lock it up, guys.
Because
this is
it's-
$1 million idea. Lock it up.
Yeah, like what you said, it's just like it kills the vibe of a project, because it's about, as a producer and an engineer, it's about, we bring creativity to it as well. It's not like we're not just doing robotic shit. It's like we have to be inspired too. So if you have a project where it's just for whatever reason it needs a lot of editing, it's like it is a bit of a downer. So trying to get out of just getting that process done is quite a pain. But
Yeah.
Okay.
So, some
I have-
songs just wind up needing more than others too.
yeah.
I have a thought. I was at a show last night, okay, and it was an acoustic kind of like songwritery showcase thing. And there was this girl who does acoustic guitar and vocals, and she writes songs, and she does really well and stuff. But she had a pianist accompany her last night. So this is like, she did like new versions of her songs, and she had this like brilliant pianist, like jazz, like, my God, he was so good. And then she just sang. She wasn't playing guitar, she just sang. But maybe, so like we're in this era where everybody, like playing shows is kind of tricky, and getting it to sound big and stuff is tricky. So we went to tracked shows. So it was like, okay, we did these big, beautiful recordings, and then like, boom, now we have backing track shows, And like nobody really bats a lash at the backtrack shows these days. Everyone kind of is like, all right, yeah, they're running like whatever. But like maybe AI gets integrated into the live scene too, where it's like an artist is like, hey, I'm going to do a stripped version, you know, of my song. And instead of having an actual jazz pianist there, it's like some sort of AI interface or something where it's like an artist can be by themselves and have like kind of live new versions of their songs.
That would be really interesting. Wow.
And it's not as like, it's more variable than a backtrack. It's like, you know, it still is original every single time you hear the song or it's performed. It's like different, you know, but it's also based on the song and you don't have to pay a bunch of musicians and, you know, I don't know, maybe it's easier. But also this idea phases out all of us probably. You know?
Yeah.
If only if that AI could get you from one venue to the next.
I was gonna say if we could just have AI take us so we could sleep on the way to the next gig for touring acts, then that would be they just take over driving duties.
Yeah,
I mean,
so you just show up. You show up with a box. You sleep in a pod that just you show up at the venue, and then you just have a little box that just plays all your shit. And all you gotta do is just sing and caress it, and give it an applause after the piano solo.
Yeah, this is where My prediction on the whole AI and it sort of doing it is maybe a return to like the live show or even live records because of like too much perfection. You know, like the 70s and 80s like live albums were like the shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, I wonder, like everybody was like, fuck yeah, I want to. What they do live is better than the record. So I'm like, maybe like we were saying with Miley or something, like maybe people's like craving for either going to see live music or live records could come back. That's my prediction. I'm sure it'll be a blend of everything, but that's a thought I've had is like maybe people will start like come to the studio, which, you know, I guess it happens with podcasts and stuff.
Well, do you guys feel that you know, considering we had like 2 years of basically no shows, but do you feel that the craving for live shows is just as strong as it was like before the pandemic, or do you feel like it's ramping back up, or do you feel that people still crave that authentic real human performance? Or like Shelby, you said, you know, there are a lot of bands that have a shitload of backing tracks these days too in their show, and it seems like it's a lot of them are doing less actual performing. It's just like, yeah, there's a drummer up there, yeah, there's a bass player up there, yeah, there's a guitarist, there's a keyboardist, but you could tell a lot of it is coming from a backing track, so it's literally like they're just playing to the track. Do you feel that people don't really care? It's just as long as it's a great experience and it sounds like the song, like I don't care, or do you think people care about that?
I think what I'm seeing, and this is based on us being in LA and us kind of being in the music world, is a lot of like micro scenes and micro shows, you know, like going on. So it's like instead of like, I mean, you have the SZA shows or the Taylor Swifts, you know, where you're paying $600 to go to a show or whatever. You know, you have those like huge production, big artists, top of the game things, which is cool. But then I think you have a lot of like really talented people doing a lot of. I go to a lot of free shows. I don't know why or how it happens, but it's just like there's a lot of free shows going on, and I feel like people make songs, they make recordings, and they play them live, and they kind of sing, and they do them in different versions live. It doesn't have to be, like, I actually think the backing track days of, like, going to, like, the Roxy and seeing, like, you're, you know, paying $25 to see the show, like, that's, like, I feel like that happens when you're a fan and you have tours, like, big tours going on, or, like, I guess this is, like, mid-tier touring bands, but locally, I just feel like when people pop up and they're kind of building and just being kind of scenes, I think it's more about the social aspect of connection, and then, like, you know, you just see somebody doing their thing, you know, like I think that's what people like most, as opposed to like, oh, they're got a backing track or like whatever. It's like, no, that dude's dope. I can feel his vibe or whatever. Like last night there was like a hip hop guy, and he had a lot of tracks, and he was cool. And then there was like a different kind of spoken word guy, and he was more, you know, he did some songs where he had track and he kind of did spoken word, and it was just like powerful because he's, you know, putting himself out there so much. And then he also had the jazz pianist guy play, and then he did spoken word on top of the jazz pianist, you know. And it's kind of like stuff like that where I don't think people, they just want to be places and see things and hang. And I don't know if it's like, I think after COVID, it really spread everything out into a more grassroots vibe as opposed to like more centralized. Because like, maybe the gap is just getting bigger. So the SZAs and the Taylor Swifts, their tickets are $600. Like, I can't even think about going to those shows. I'm like, no, I don't want to, you know, like, but their productions, like their visual stage productions are like modern live Dolly level, like visuals, you know. It's like, it's actually so incredible. To get there is like, I mean, it's like a lottery win really to get there. Yeah. So then, you know, people just kind of getting going and building their songs and putting their identity and message out there. I think the people that go to those shows, it's a little more about the social endeavor, you know.
Totally, yeah.
And just kind of resonating with the scene, you know.
So is that something that you guys make like a consistent effort to do? Like, do you guys go out together as like the fund and kind of check out bands and kind of see who's like newer bands that are doing well, or like a sound that you might like? Do you kind of go out like maybe once a week or once every other week and kind of look for bands to work with? Is that something you guys do, or you kind of do that independently? Or
we do it collectively and independently. Yeah, we definitely go places, like certain events that are like more like the music events. We all go together and we do our network game. It definitely helps when we're all there, because we all have like different personalities. We connect with different people in different ways. Lately, even like artists that we produce have been at these events as well, which also helps because it's like, hey, here's like an all-encompassing vibe of like people we work with, like everyone's super dope. And then I think individually we're all into different things, so we all sort of like hit our own little pockets as well of like, oh, like my interest might take me here, Jeff's interest here, and Shelby's here, so we all like sort of branch out into our individual tastes as well, and I guess sort of like pull that back together to, you know, make what we do.
We have the
unique and special.
Gotcha.
We kind of have the luxury of being a team.
Yeah.
So like and this happens in the networking and the kind of connections, as well as, you know, how we work internally. Like, you know, we're talking about like keeping track of all the tools. Well, you know, Paul's really into, you know, like we're all into different aspects, but we pool it all together into a team effort. So, you know, it happens with like how we work, divvying up duties, you know, keeping track of everything, managing, you know, modern new information, new technology stuff, new artists, and we're kind of all just juggling it together.
Yeah. We all have like our certain takes on it. You know, I feel like the beauty in the team is for all of us to appreciate it, you know, because it's really a challenge to be a great team, as I think is like the harmony of it. And I think that's something that we've been able to manage for quite some time. We've been working together for a long time.
yeah, I think that's, you know, since you're playing music together for many years and then deciding to come together as a producer group, I think it's really smart. Is like you develop those strong relationship over time, and that you kind of realize, okay, well, we can tolerate each other enough, so let's go ahead and work as a team. Because that, like, what you're doing is, I mean, as you know, it's like, you know, being in a band isn't easy. You have to be with the people that you can really spend a lot of time with and that you like love as a person, and finding those people isn't easy. So it's great that you guys have come so far and decided to like take on a new endeavor with production. So it's really cool to see that.
Thanks,
man.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. We've definitely had our ups and downs, but it's good for us to be grateful and reminded of that as well. So thank you.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
It is really special, actually, because, you know, what we can offer to artists is like pretty deep. You know, like I think our greatest strength as a team and kind of all of our experience collectively is that we could take somebody, get to know them, and kind of just give them a sonic identity mirror of themselves, you know, like, and that's the goal, is to give them something authentic that is truly themselves. Because if you give something to somebody that's not them, they're not going to work it. Nothing's going to happen with it. It's not going to work, you know. So we're really, as coming from an artist perspective ourselves, we know that like it needs to be something that is just so honest to them. And so really when we, you know, kind of hang with these people and get to know them intimately in the studio, it's special because these artists are dope. They all have really amazing, unique perspectives, you know, and they have things to say and stories to tell. And like, we're kind of just there to help facilitate it with, you know, all of our experience, whether it's helping them get through a particular life event or building a record or helping guide them as best as possible with their career, or like, you know, touring or live, or, you know, like, we just have so much to offer. So it's kind of like a natural progression for us to, like, you know, go this way. And, you know, it's cool. It's cool to keep it going and to constantly learn about new things. This is like a new era for us, you know?
Yeah. And I think what you said about it, you have a lot to offer. I mean, because, you know, most 99% of producers, they work alone, or they have like their engineer that they work with most of the time. But when you have three of you that you've been in a band and now you're working with artists. So I think that's a huge benefit, because you can say like you're working with a certain artist that maybe they're, like you said, maybe they're going through like something in their life, and you know, as a producer, we also have to be psychologists at times. So maybe one of you is better at handling, oh, this person is going through a breakup. Okay, Shelby knows what to do with that situation. Then you guys will like, you'll be editing or whatever. Like maybe you know, someone is better at certain situations.
You're right.
So it's like, okay, well, let me take over that aspect of this, and okay, and you go comp this vocal while, you know, she's upset about her boyfriend right now, whatever. Like having like being able to handle different tasks is it seems like a really strong, like, huge benefit, because it's like, you know, like I said, most producers they're by themselves, or maybe they'll have one other person, but you having three people, yeah, it seems like you guys can get a lot more done.
Yeah, and
quicker.
there's actually like a cool, like, natural checks and balance that happens too, in creative and just like strategy for us, you know, like, because like creatively, you know, it's got to be vetted by all of us, you know, we all have to like be cool with it, you know, like, so it's not just like one producer doing their thing and the artist has like they're like up against, you know, it's like a stalemate, you know, it's like, it's a little more like, you know, what's best for this, and it's kind of more groupthink. You know, it's kind of like, all right, we have a brain trust, and we bring people into the brain trust, you know.
Yeah, and also you guys can kind of like check each other. You know, it's like if someone's working on the mix, and maybe someone else notices something else that the person that's doing the mix like missed, and it's like you guys can help, you know, just help the end product become better, faster. Because like, you know, I work alone on mixing, so, you know, I have people that I'll send stuff off to and be like, hey, can you just like double check this for me, see if I'm missing anything, or what do you think? But you guys have that in house, which is awesome. Yeah. And, you know, you trust each other. So, you know, like, okay, well, it's in everyone's best interest. So it's not like it's just about getting the best song. So, yeah.
Yeah. Try to keep the, you know, what is like, check your ego at the door sort of thing, where it's like, we're all just after the best end product, you know?
Yeah. I feel like that's been the biggest growth in producing too. It's like, you know, when you're working on your own music, it's yours, and, you know, everybody gets so like, you're so like, your
precious.
ego is you're precious about everything. And you know, I think at least for me, like doing producing for other artists, you really learn that value of like supporting that person, and like you're really guiding that person to being their best.
Yeah.
And so like you know, it's like, you know, your ideas are just one of this group, and it's not necessarily so much that like fighting, you know, battle as a, you know, as bands have. I mean, you obviously know, But yeah, we're and as far as just a safe space for people to work, you kind of have to like you kind of have to be like, all right, this person's coming in, being very vulnerable with their ideas, and we're here to like sort of second, support that. So
Totally.
I think for me at least that's been the funnest like growth in like changing that sort of like opening up to being a producer.
Yeah, because it's like you had years of writing your own music and being precious about, this is my song, this is my album.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you guys can relate, because one of the main things I noticed when I did the similar thing, for the longest time I was writing my own music, and then I decided to work with others. It was actually very freeing, because you don't have to be precious about it. It's like, that's their music. It's not about me. It's them. So I can bring a lot to the table to help them, but I don't have to be so precious about it anymore. So it was a bit of a liberating thing for me. It was like, okay, well, you don't like that part? Fine, let's delete it. Let's do something else. Like, it's not my song. Whatever you want.
Yeah.
So that's what I really enjoy about it, is like, you can just go in and give your best advice and your take on it. And you're like, this is what I would do. What do you think? You like it? Cool. You don't? Cool. Let's, whatever. Like I said, it's really, really freeing to just let it be about the artist. So
yeah.
The
100%.
craziest thing that I think happens, like Jeff was saying, is like when an artist kind of comes in and something happens and there is like a moment of heat or something. It's like we've been there before. So like we've worked with so many producers, songwriters, label situations, manager situations. We've made all the mess ups, the fuck ups, been the emotional wild cards. We've been like all these like we've been this throughout our career, and kind of like, so when artists kind of come in and then they do it in front of us, it's like mainly every time we've been in that situation.
Yeah.
It's like hilarious to us to like have it be mirrored back to us, and we're like, oh man, you're so stupid.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
You're like, here we go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but
looking at your adolescence.
Yeah.
But that's a huge benefit of being a producer, is like you said, you're it's like a flashback to yourself and maybe some of the mistakes you made and some of the behaviors you had. So it's like, what to do to help the artist in that situation, because you're like, oh, I've been here, so let's try this, or let's try this. So it's a huge benefit, man, because I think a lot of producers, I mean, it's still weird to me that this is a thing, but a lot of producers have never been musicians. They come in and they've never been in a band. And they don't know the dynamic. They've always been a producer. They started like as an engineer and then a producer. It seems like, at least the producers that I really admire, they have also been musicians first or in a band first, but there are some that have always strictly been producers or engineer to producer. So it is a little weird to me, because it's like, well, how can you relate and how can you help an artist if you don't really know like what note they're trying to hit or what chord that is, or stuff like that. So that's a little bit weird to me, but I see how it can work. But it's a huge benefit to have that.
I always say that we share our failures with our artists, which is not that we have all these failures, but we have these moments where we're, in hindsight, we're like, oh, well, we could have done that better, whatever. But so it makes it more than just music. We're helping them. We're helping them in other ways than just the song or just the recording or whatever. It's a little more like, just general being an artist. Help.
Like Matt. To tie it all up to Sound City vibes, Matt Wallace.
Sound City West.
Sound City West. Sound City.
and North, bro.
Matt and North. All the Sound Cities. That's why I said Sound City.
Yeah,
West.
yeah. Dude, Alex is West.
Okay, I know.
He's West, dude.
Well, we're a family here. But what I was gonna say is like Matt Wallace, you've had on, is produced an early record of ours, Ben. And, I think he was sort of a mentor to us in so many ways, and he did more than just produce our record. He like guided us and gave us such good insight and direction along the way that I think we've absorbed a lot of Matt Wallace. We call him Wizard for a reason. And I think, you know, that's how we give back, or that's how I guess we sort of our model of how we, you know, treat artists. It's like you want them to have a successful career. You don't want them to, like, you know, like bang their head against the wall and just give up or something, you know, like we want to try to like help them make, you know, the best decisions to get their music out and ultimately like just have a successful career in music, you know, which, you know, again, we learned from Matt Wallace at a young age. So I think those sort of ideas were planted in us, you know. So
Yeah, absolutely.
The Wizard.
Yeah.
Which we've actually been called Wizard by people that we work. We're like, they'll call us Wizards now. So I think we've graduated.
Hell yeah.
Mhm.
We graduated
Yeah.
Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's such a beautiful thing when you can get to the point where when you are working with an artist, just from having all the experience of being a musician and being in a band and going through all these struggles for years, and I think failures are a good thing, but when you have all this experience to bring to an artist, and a lot of the time one of the main things the artist really needs is just someone to sit down with them, listen to their music, and be like, just stop doubting yourself. What you're doing is great. Just stop trying to be someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying to be like, because, you know, a lot of artists, they have their favorite productions, their favorite bands, and they're like striving for that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if a producer can just sit down with them and be like, look, I see that you want to sound like this, but you have something really special here. So don't be ashamed or don't feel vulnerable about this sound. And I know maybe like it's weird for some artists to accept like, oh, but I don't like the way I sound, or I don't like what I naturally am. But if you can kind of help them realize that it's okay and who they are as an artist is awesome, then that's like when you can see a lot of magic come from that, instead of just trying to like,
so yeah,
just
I feel
fucking, I want to sound like, I want to be the next Billie Eilish or whatever they have
Yeah.
in their head. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you could just get them comfortable with who they are,
That seems to be like the key
Mm-hmm.
in great producers. You know, probably Rick Rubin's probably a master of this, but you know, it's so hard, especially today with like that everyone's comparing each other to like artists that you love or like artists who are like your peers. And you know, I guess as a great producer, your job is to hold up the mirror in a sense, where you're like, this is the true essence of you, let's get to it.
yeah.
And also make the artist feel empowered by it and okay with it. And because we've definitely dealt with some artists when we were first starting out where we would hold up the mirror in a way where it was like maybe we touched on some insecurities that they were like maybe trying to hide, and they didn't want to see that side of themselves. But for us, is like just being here in like in our studio where we're all safe and we're trusting each other with all of these emotions. Like we're like, no, this is like what makes you your unique you. This is like
the magic
superpower. This is the you that people will love and appreciate. You know, if only you can appreciate about yourself, which that's a tough thing, and that's, you know, some producers are probably great at it, but also it's also an internal quest for some of these people. Ourselves included.
Also too, I think if the musician or the producer working with the artist hasn't gone through that themselves as well, it's harder to help them with that.
Yeah.
It's
know?
harder.
Absolutely.
Like you can't. It's easier to be a guide. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where it blends into therapy.
Yeah.
This is the therapy part.
This is that.
It's, you know, like Rick Rubin he's just like, he's more of like a,
It's like a guru.
he's like a personality expert, you know, like psychology, you know, like he is, I guess,
like,
guru is
kind of
good.
like spiritual guide
Yeah.
for the music making process.
He's good at unlocking personalities in order for flow state to just kind of happen. That's his magic power, you know. and he's figured it out over the course of 3 or 4 decades.
Yeah, and it's because he's done that himself. Like he has unlocked himself. Like I don't know if you've read his book or if you've listened to. He did a shitload of podcasts to promote his new book.
Yeah.
And a lot of he talks about what he struggled through with himself and like his health and a lot of shit that he overcame. And I think as he was doing that with himself, he was also helping artists with similar things, and like he went through it already, so he knows how to get to an artist. He knows how to unlock that in them because he unlocked it himself first.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. There's so much to it, but I'm really happy that you guys have like stuck it out, and things, you're just getting better and better and doing more and more work, and you've been at Sound City for a while, and I'm just really happy for you guys, man, honestly. So
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's
means a lot.
inspiring to see you guys, thrive and rise up. So yeah. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up? Anything you want to plug or any
I guess
projects?
the couple things to plug are we're working with Zach Gordon. There's some good stuff happening with that. Right now we're working also with this artist. Her name is Valet. And we're really excited about a bunch of records that are coming out with her. She's a Colombian artist. Socials would be Valet in all caps, like all spelled out, 3 words. And then our own band stuff. We're kind of swinging back over into that way. We took a long break, and now we're kind of starting to put some things out there. So be on the lookout for some new Beat Fund.
Nice.
And
if you want to hear any of our productions, or you're interested in checking us out as producers, we have a playlist on our website and our Instagram. But if it's just @_the fund, we have a playlist there that has literally every song we've produced.
Yeah.
A whole array of colors and tastes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Newbeatfund.com. You can find everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Great, guys. Thank you so much for coming by and sharing all the info and having a great chat. So I really appreciate it. And everyone go check out The Fund. All right, guys. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you,
Thanks, Alex.
Cheers.